you know, it's good to have you all with me tonight. Starting off with some Grammatic. This song is called Balkan Express, but it's still, Grammatic's got that dirty New York City sound, and I love it. It's just so good. Welcome to the show. It is May 30th, 2019 at 7 p.m. on the East Coast. The skies are darkened with storm clouds, and it's raining once again, just in time for a quite frankly live broadcast here on the East Coast. And it'll be thundering and lightning soon. I said, do I go dark and gloomy? I said, no. We're going to dance in the rain.
Do this. I am sick and tired of liberals using black people and making us look like victims, making us look soft with their liberal dogma. It is disgusting. The other thing I hate about liberals is, if you're a black man, as I am, in America, they will not hand you a microphone unless you follow the liberal narrative. And I said, you know what? I bet if I go into Starbucks and I follow a liberal narrative, I'll make the news. And voila, here I am.
It's just so perfect. It's perfect. I love it. And voila, here I am. And just the smile at the end. It's just so perfect. It encapsulates everything that we're dealing with. So it's with that being said, I can't think of another a better way to lead into our next guest. Let's give him a call, shall we? With the very brand new Skype. Here we go. Look, you don't hear the ring. You don't hear the ring, but here he is, first time on the show. So happy to have him on with us, Mr. Brian Sharp, Hotep Jesus. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so great to have you on. We just watched your spot on Laura Ingram's show, and man, what a victory that must have been. Just to see. I always, you know, the old phrase, love when a plan comes together. That must have been so great to have the punchline just perfect. You stuck it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh no, you stuck the landing 100%. So everybody, we're gonna wait until his video comes in, then I'll put him on screen. But in the meantime, I wanted to bring this up with you. Now, what I have over here is that the original alarm for 7:20.
Yeah, my fault.
No, it's all right. I'm calling you early. Now, I've been following you. I caught on how the ancient word, how ancient a word Hotep is. And the first thing I know a lot of people are going to want to know is just a little bit more of the historical background, the concept behind Hotep Jesus as your brand. So would you mind giving me and the audience a little bit of that background behind your brand and what you're doing on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, we focus on economics and finance. We find that seems to be the Achilles heel for a lot of people. So we focus on that. As you said, Hotep has some ancient meaning behind it. I put together a well thought out piece on our website, hotepnation.com. You can go and check it out. But it's basically an FAQ. We answer all the questions about Hotep Nation, and I think that's a great resource that people try and use to try and understand us and the different nuances. Sometimes it's really easy to get confused.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing here too is it's always just so important for people to reach out and learn more about things that they don't know about. And I think that in such a great sense, everybody's so scared to ask each other just very innocent, inquisitive, these questions about each other, especially when we do things, when we're all doing things to either honor our heritage or anything else. Everybody's so scared to talk to each other. And that's why I've been really just enjoying your podcast and everything else, because no matter how different lives we may have, as far as the people we know, where we find ourselves day to day, what our routines are, it's just so refreshing to see once again what are the binds that tie us. We're free men. We're liberty. You talk about economic issues that affect everybody, no matter what the hell color you are. And I think that's always just such a much more productive talk than most of the talks that we're having right now in public.
Yeah, I think the problem is some people are really sensitive about questions that are asked, right? So, for example, in the Black community, there seems to be a agreement that if a white person asks to touch their hair, it's racist, right? And I kind of get it, but I've actually been in that situation before, where I was in Africa, we're working on a project, and there's a white lady there that was working with us, and we were kicking it, having lunch on the beach. And there's an older woman. She's like, 60, 70 years old. She was like, I've never felt, dreadlocks before. There's a white woman. She's directly from Germany, right? She speaks little English. And I was like, sure, check it out. And she played with my hair for like a good 5 minutes, really in awe. I didn't take it as racist. I took it as, you've never been around Black people before, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Go ahead and just, study my hair. I don't care, But I think, some of that stuff is the reason why there is cultural issues and barriers, because people are so sensitive when people are inquisitive about them.
Yeah, and you do such a good job at breaking that away, and I mean you don't shy away from anything, especially when it comes to detractors, and when you get met with sometimes even violent resistance. I saw that the videos from the Trump rally a couple of days ago, and you're talking basic economics. You're talking about the reason why college is just so expensive, and of course it's just everybody has this dead-end way of thinking, and it doesn't matter what color people really are. It's when we realize that we've been all fed certain types of narratives to keep us walking down certain paths. It's really something else. And I have to ask you this one question, because we brought this up on the show the other day, and I sent you a link to it just because I wanted to get your ideas from this. Now, Eric Swalwell, okay? Eric Swalwell is running for president, and we saw him sit down with a host on Vice News, and he's trying to get all the attention he can because there's like 35,000 candidates from the Democrat Party right now. And he was asked a very deep question, a question everybody wants to hear answered right now. And the question was why he, another white man, should be president. And he said this, among other things. He said, I may be another white guy, but I know that there are gaps in my knowledge or my experience, and I know when to pass the mic. Now, I know these groveling types, okay? Eric Swalwell is pretty much the guy in high school who is so desperate to make friends, especially black friends, that he becomes the guy that everyone borrows lunch money from. And that's exactly what this guy is. So I understand that. But what I want to do is I want to ask you a question that's a little bit different. How would you have answered that question for Eric Swalwell if you could have worked him like a puppet in that moment right there, where this woman is asking a presidential candidate why this country needs another white president instead of, a president that might have ideas that can elevate everybody in some kind of a truly liberal sense, not what liberal has become today? What would you have answered if you could have answered for Eric Swalwell?
Well, I didn't even take his comment as racial as I did sexist, because at the end of that, he said, I'm pushing for a woman to be my vice president. And to me, I'm like, oh, that can be easily misconstrued as a woman has to be subordinate to a man. So I think he left himself open to attack on that end. If I were to advise him on how to answer that question, I don't think there's a way to answer that, right? The best thing for him to do is be honest and say, I shouldn't, another white male shouldn't be president, right? If you want to get the praise of the left, you have to be, 100% honest. Do I think that there should be a white president or not? I really don't care. The spot is practically vacant as it is now. But yeah, I don't think there's a right way to answer that question without being politically incorrect.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's what it is. And I think that the premise of the question infuriates the hell out of me the most as well, because people like Eric Swalwell wouldn't need gaps of knowledge to be filled if he wasn't looking to be involved. If anybody, if the people who are vying for this position and vying for all of these positions in power weren't looking to be involved in every last individual life choice of an individual, any individual in this country. Yeah, and we know that we have over 300 million individuals. So for anybody to say that they have gaps of knowledge as to what people's individual experience are in life when you're trying to preside over a country of hundreds of millions is just absurd. But it just goes along with what socialism is all about. It's assuming perfect knowledge. And because they have to assume perfect knowledge of what the situation is and what people actually want and what drives people to make decisions economically or educationally or otherwise, that's why everything usually falls apart at the seams. They do not ever account for the things they didn't consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have gaps in knowledge, so that was just a poor thing to say. You know what these people are insinuating or what they're trying to allude to. And instead of you corroborating, you decided to actually come up with a rebuttal to that response. There is no rebuttal to that response. The only response is a proper one is, hey, look, I'm running for president. If you don't want to vote for me because I'm a white guy, you have every right to. I'm here because these are the things I believe in, and ... This is my platform. Like, stick to your platform and what you're here for, whatever it is. If your platform is pandering to people based upon race or sex, then you have no platform. And it seems like that's what that video was. It was like a setup for him to pander to an audience. Intelligent people are going to see right through it. I don't think he'll get far anyway.
Yeah.
But, at least be honest in that respect.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to bring that up, especially since it's a microcosm of really what the whole platform seems to be for the left at this point. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I see the racial implications there too, because the pass the mic stuff and whatnot. But I also love the tokenism of the vice presidency, where he goes. I think he was trying to kill two birds with one stone. I think he was going for race and for gender by saying, "Oh, and I would love to have a woman fill the useless position of vice president," which there's absolutely nothing to do as vice president unless there's a tie in the Senate. There's nothing to do. So it's one of those things there. Now, I was writing this show today, and as I was writing it, I was thinking about George Orwell this morning, and as fate would have it, and that's always the way things go with the show, you took to Twitter, and with the help of some of your followers, you updated the famous Orwell slogans from 1984, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And one of the new ones you added that I grabbed up here, and I actually combined two, was independence is treason, and freedom and free speech is violence. Now, I think that is also why it was so sad to watch that little violent end of the economics debate that you had at the Trump rally. It's really insane to see reasonably intelligent people so hopelessly committed to these dead-end ideas. Could you sum up that encounter as far as what the subject matter was? Because I think what you were trying to convey was so important, especially for people out there who got swept up in things like Occupy Wall Street, and they wanted their student debt forgiven. They need to know why the debt is as bad as it is. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, well, if you watch the Periscope, the entire hour of that segment, you'll notice a theme. Nobody actually wanted to converse with me, interface with me. It seemed that when the debate was easier, when the questions were easier, when I was going along with them, they would have a conversation with me. But as soon as things got tough, where they realized that they were dealing with an intelligent human being that might know more than them, they would try to ignore me, or in the case of that young girl, attack me, right? I'm not sure what that is. I know it's cognitive dissonance, but the violent part seems to be just a frustration that these people have. I don't know. I don't know why. But like you see it in this girl's face here in the thing. She starts cracking her knuckles. The body language is just like, a pressure, like they feel some sort of pressure, and I guess the pressure to just be right all the time. And then because in normal circles they are right all the time, but when you're dealing with Hotep Jesus, it's a whole different story. Like, I actually sat down and I studied this stuff. I didn't learn socialism through memes. I didn't learn capitalism through memes. Like, I actually sat down and I studied this stuff. These people seem to learn their ideologies through memes or blurbs or short talking points or things that they heard from other people. And that's what they're doing. They're just passing around repeated talking points. Whereas, myself, when people were, I saw conservatives and liberals, libertarians, trashing socialism. And before I spoke up and said, let me trash socialism, I asked my followers, I said, where can I learn more about this topic of socialism? Where can I learn more about this topic of communism? And because I have a lot of followers, they sent me books. And I kind of just waited to see who kind of agreed on what the top 3 books were. And I read them, So, I had my own understanding of these topics and came to my own conclusions on these topics. So when it's time to actually talk to people, for example, with the college, debt thing, I went and looked that up. But, the loans are backed by the government, which means that there's no risk of loss by the lender. So if you have no risk of loss, it's like, all right, well, I might as well just give out more money, right? Because I make more money.
Why the hell not at that point?
Yeah. It's just it's an unlimited faucet, an endless faucet, and then it trickles down into the book, the book companies are like, well, if they're getting all this free money, then I might as well raise the prices of my books. And then the college goes, oh, well, we might as well raise the price of tuition. So there's all this, this is what socialism does. It creates hyperinflation.
Yeah. The other thing there too is, you can put that across all other types of schemes. And you can say some schemes might have started out with good intentions, and all of a sudden we realize, why the phrase, the old saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, Smedley Butler talked about that with War is a Racket. How the same kind of things, once you open up the treasury and you say, hey, anything goes, then people start really actually liking the idea. If you're a manufacturer, you don't want to see people die, but when you start seeing the tens of millions of dollars are coming in because you're making boots for war service, there's that going on. And you just going back to education, the book companies, they start seeing it up there, but as with all of your studying has brought you to, because I've seen you talk about supply and demand before as well. I mean, once you start screwing with the supply and demand model of college itself, and you start creating unlimited access to something that is so finite, I mean, the costs, not only can you just ask for more money and you're going to get it because the government is backing it, but at the same time you need more money because you need to build new dormitories. You got to hire more staff, more janitors, more, I mean, whatever the hell it is, everything just becomes completely inflated. And then you start asking yourself, what are these children leaving college with? Or what degrees are they leaving with? What careers are they starting? And how well are they going to be able to pay this stuff back? And I think that's really another part of the reason why everybody's starting to march for student forgiveness, because now it's like, how can you actually really do it?
I mean, another side effect was the make-believe courses that they have. You have an influx of students coming in, and you're like, well, they don't all fit into all these classes and all these courses. These courses are filling up. And it's like, well, let's just make up more courses. So then you have these people that are graduating with fake degrees, paper on the wall, and really nothing to substantiate it. It's almost like a fiat currency. It exists as a means to get you somewhere, But at the end of the day, it's backed up by nothing. The degree used to be backed by knowledge. If you had somebody in engineering, we could trust them to build our bridges. If we had somebody in medicine, we could trust them to save our lives. Some of these people are getting degrees, and it's like we can't trust them to do anything but complain on the internet.
Oh, very well said. That's very well said, because I'll tell you, man, I love this topic. Has been killing me for a while now. It seems like everyone, and just watching that video from the Trump rally that you went to, everyone seems to be preparing themselves for a career of endless fight. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, when young people go to school, regardless of color, they seem to be studying. Everybody seems to eventually be studying some variation of the subject matter that is constantly being marched for, or marched, in favor of, or whatever the hell it is. I used to think that even hard applied sciences would be free from this stuff, because like you said before, how can you politicize engineering? That's backed by knowledge. But lo and behold, we have a mayor in New York City that wants to ban skyscrapers because of the environment. So it doesn't go away. You can't find it. So this is why I also try to always ask, especially in this kind of, if I ever did man on the street stuff, I would love to ask this. If all of the things that people were pursuing right now in the streets when they're protesting were fixed, if they were fixed, what was going on? What would you be pursuing right now if your main purpose wasn't the fight itself? Like this girl that you came face to face with and you were talking to until it finally came apart at the seams. She's fixated on education costs in a very short-sighted way, as you pointed out to her, which is why the cognitive dissonance kicked in, and all of a sudden she acted physically. But my question for her would be, and many people like her would be, if this was fixed to your liking today, what would you commit your life to tomorrow? Because I know that ultimately we all, and you concentrate a lot on self-improvement, self-reliance, and going out and creating a life you want that you can be proud of. This is such ultimately a distraction from what people can actually do to create a life that they're proud of. What do you think most of them would say to that question if you were to ask them that?
They wouldn't know. No, they wouldn't know. They'd probably say, "Oh, I want to travel," But these people, first of all, they have no concept of history. They have no concept of human evolution as it pertains to intellect and technology. They have no awareness of where we are as a country, where we are as a government, where we are as a military. Where we are as a country financially. They don't understand why the country's in debt, who the country's in debt to. They don't understand the president's role or non-role in the progress or regression of America. So, if you don't understand the world that you live in and you don't understand yourself, there's no way you could answer that question.
No, man. And listen, I know that you're only on for 30 minutes tonight, but as far as who the money is owed to, what the president's role is, I'd love to do deep dives into that one night. If you ever come back, which I would love to have you back on, we should definitely do deep dives on that. That'd be amazing right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude. Yeah, no, it's big. And getting back to the original Orwell slogans that you were putting out there, because this is going to lead me to, I know we only have 10 more minutes now because you have to do your show at 8. But this one is going to lead me to a question I have been waiting to talk to you about for a couple of weeks now. Now, getting back to the Orwell slogans before, the original one, war is peace. This is one of those nonsensical things that is actually really a great view into how propaganda is pushed, how people are just trained into thinking these really, they just don't match when you put the two concepts together. But this led me right into a topic that you've written about recently that I've been wanting to talk about with someone, and thankfully it's you. You've been throwing out some attention at one person in particular who doesn't tie themselves to the war is peace script, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. And she is currently getting the Ron Paul treatment Okay, she's being wholly ignored by all the networks and both parties, obviously, especially the Democrat Party. She was one of the first people to announce her candidacy. She's getting the Ron Paul treatment. She's still very liberal when it comes to the economy and social justice stuff, but on foreign policy and free speech especially, she sticks out like a sore thumb. And she's even been called a stooge of Vladimir Putin recently, which is a great sign if you have a half a brain and you've been watching what's really going on in the world. So, I mean, what are you thinking about? I don't know about you, but veteran of the Iraq War, very critical of all the wars out there, wants to end them all. A member of the National Guard, and if anyone should be anti-imperialist, it should be Hawaiians. I know she was born in American Samoa, but still, what are your thoughts on her? Because you had a really interesting take on why people should be rooting for her to at least ascend in the ranks in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, so I view the conservative fight to be quite similar to the so-called black struggle. See, elections are usually controlled by people other than the people. And it seems like people have forfeited their ability to change the course of the elections. We kind of just roll over and say, okay, fine, give us Biden, right? Give us Creepy Joe. Instead of saying, well, no, we can choose a Democrat too. So like there's this thing, like, so when I say Tulsi Gabbard, right? The conservatives often say, oh, no, Trump. It's like, okay, like, look, we know Trump's our guy. Now, what about the other side of the race, right? So it's like an Eastern Conference and there's a Western Conference. Each side has to have a champion. But it's just like, you still have to make the other side work. You still have to throw a wrench in the plans. You still have to confuse them a bit. You know, this is basic art of war shit here. You know what I mean? This isn't something that I invented. It's just common sense that you have to keep your enemy honest. And if your enemy is the left, at least force them to be honest. We mean Trump into existence. Why not mean Tulsi into existence when at the very least, if you do lose this election, at least you get somebody at least close to Trump. You know, everybody's anti-war, but it's just like, well, why aren't you, rooting for the person on the other side that's anti-war? You're kind of just like, I'm stuck over here. You know, it's the same thing with black people. It's like, we vote Democrat, 92%, right? And it's like, well, and then they say, well, the Republicans are racist. And I'm like, well, throw all that out because we've been getting nothing but racist policies from the Democrats anyway. So it's like, you're not technically voting based upon red or blue. You need to be voting based upon how can we make this unpredictable for the oligarchy.
Yeah.
And people aren't thinking like that.
No, it's and I don't know about you, man, but listen, I know that there's a lot of people who are wishy-washy on anybody from that side of the aisle, and I've heard people compare her to being a female Romney and stuff like that. But like I said before, she stands above head and shoulders of everybody else on that side of the paradigm that we're stuck in right now, because just on free speech and peace alone, I mean, just it's that. What more can we ask for at this point? We're having the biggest amounts of problem with free speech and censorship, and of course, we're trying tooth and nail to get ourselves out of all of this military involvement around the world, and it's. It is one of those things where it's interesting. She is getting the Ron Paul treatment, and I don't know about you, but I think that would be really interesting. Would you think it's interesting enough to see maybe Donald Trump offer her a Secretary of State position, or see if she'd actually like to put some of that? Because obviously, if she's doing someone who has a foreign policy view like that is somebody I would love to see as a Secretary of State or even a Secretary of Defense. I wouldn't want her running the economy. I don't want to see, because she goes all in with the housing and the health care for all, and it really is. I'm not sitting here saying, hey everybody, mark one off for Tulsi. I'm just saying, like you were doing, evaluating the enemy or evaluating the other side, the opponent, and trying to keep them honest. I think that right there, if she can even just nudge Democrats into a little bit more pro-free speech, anti-war position. How does that not benefit everybody to have your opponent at least thinking that way?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wear Joe down, make him work to get there, so that by the time he gets to Trump, he's all beat up, he's all exposed because his own, conference did it to him, You don't want a situation where a guy's walking in, off a sweep, he swept the competition. Nah, make him go 7 games.
That's it. No, that's it, man. Listen, you know what? We're about 3 minutes away, so I'm not even going to ask another question. I'm just so grateful that you've been on with me tonight. So listen, by all means, Brian, if you can just let everybody know out there the best places to find you, plug all of your most important platforms and websites, and let everybody know how to find your podcast. Also, you got to send my regards to Uncle Hotep. You guys work great together.
Oh, thanks. Definitely will. See in about 4 minutes here.
Yeah.
So I think there's 2 destinations mainly. One is the group, hotepnation.com. You can go there and find all of our op-eds on various topics, which are highly controversial. And then it's me, myself, Brian Sharp, BryanSharpe.co. And there you can subscribe and get all my daily wisdom and notified about all my products and just keeping up with me in general. But that's the best place to get in touch with me is BryanSharpe.co.
Well, Brian, Hotep Jesus, thank you so much for coming by, man. I can't wait to have you on again. And also, I think you're a New Yorker, right?
I'm in New Jersey, right outside New York.
Well, listen, anytime you need a studio, if you wanted to do some work from the studio, I would be happy to engineer you. Just let me know. I mean, this place is at your beck and call. So just, yeah, absolutely.
What about next week?
Dude, I'll tell you. I mean, now that we broke the ice, I mean, next time you come on my show, you should just swing by and occupy a seat, man. You're probably not that far from me.
Because me and Uncle Hotep have an idea to do the 50th episode somewhere together live. So maybe that's something we can do next week.
Send me a message, and I'll start looking at what the schedule for next week looks like, and we'll see what we can work out.
All right, say no more.
All right, man. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Thanks so much. Everybody's loving your appearance so far. This is already a great one.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right.
Shout out to everybody in the chat.
All right. Take care. Be well. And there you go, everybody. A great first-time guest. Liking it a lot. But everybody, you know what? It's a good place to stop right here, 7:48 p.m. We'll just take our midway break a little bit early, come on back, and start taking a little bit of calls from all of you. Also, I want to get around to a little bit more on